Hey everybody, my name's Commander Eagle131, and I'd like to test out the new Python Mark II in Elite Dangerous. So we're not going to be testing its combat prowess, we're not going to be taking it into a PvP fight either, but what I would like to test out is how this thing handles flight assist off. So if you guys have known me in Elite Dangerous from past things, you might know I am mostly a 100% flight assist off pilot. I've had the pleasure of flying with some of the most awesome pilots I've ever flown with. I learned a lot flying with them, and flying FA off in Elite Dangerous has just thoroughly increased my enjoyment of the game throughout the years. And in fact, at this point in my Elite career, I've spent a lot of time playing, and I've done pretty much everything I kind of wanted to do. But the only thing that really kind of draws me back to the game is just, not doing any missions, not doing anything in particularly important, just flying around, floating around in space or around starports. I just think it's a ton of fun. So we're going to do a little bit of that today in the new Python Mark II. So before we head out and do some flight tests, I kind of want to show what I've got under the hood here. I've taken the liberty of doing a little bit of light engineering. I didn't min-max anything. In fact, the only thing that I've got here, let me just show the core internal just really quickly. I don't want to get too detailed here, but just know I didn't min-max this thing for agility. But a lot of us FAOP pilots, we do tend to sort of tune these things to give us maximum speed and agility. In my experience, medium ships are a little bit more forgiving because they can handle mass better than small ships can. But for instance, if we're trying to engineer something like an Eagle or a Viper Mark III for canyon flight assist off, a little bit of min-maxing is going to be necessary because they tend not to handle mass too well. So you start throwing heavy modules onto a Viper, and then you start dropping in speed, and we tried to avoid that. But these mediums are generally really forgiving. That's the assumption that I'm carrying on with the Python Mark II. So if you can see here, there's not a whole lot of D-rated things because I didn't think it was necessary. And honestly, when I was swapping stuff in and out, when I was testing what kind of lightweighting all these modules what would look like, I'd only get like a few meters per second speed boost. Honestly, I have very little put on here other than the core internal anyway that would take up mass. So I think everything's going to be okay in the end. I think we're going to have speed and maneuverability as good as we can get, or pretty close to it. But anyway, that's my disclaimer about why you might be wondering why I didn't derate everything. But yeah, so let me just talk about these thrusters. Whoops, wrong button. I actually pulled those thrusters off of another ship that I have. So you can see it is grade 5 dirty drive tuning with drag drives experimental effect. That's pretty important for the test. I want to make sure that the entire thruster assembly is as high of grade as possible. And that's kind of a meta with a lot of us FA-off pilots, dirty drag drives, without question. Maybe in some niche circumstances we might not use drag drives as the experimental effect, but I think pretty much that's the standard, dirty drag drives. So that I wanted to put on here. The SCO drive, I wanted to keep that on board. I didn't even actually look to see how massive it is in comparison to some of the other FSDs, but generally speaking, I would actually put the smallest, lightest possible frameshift drive on a ship like this, built specifically for FA out flight, and that's because I have a fleet carrier, and pretty much all of my FA off specific ships just get launched from the carrier. They don't necessarily need jump range. But for this one, I kept the 5C SCO drive because who doesn't want to go super stupid fast in Super Cruise? I know I do. So I kept that on there. D-rated life support, that's pretty self-explanatory. The other important one here, we've got this 6A power distributor. we have a heavy one on there. Whoops, wrong button again. I put a heavy one on there, and I brought it up to grade 3, I believe charge enhance, was it? Yeah, so grade 3 charge enhance. And the reason I have that guy on there is because we want what we like to call perma boost. So that means we can keep on hitting the boost key, and we never have to worry about the engine capacitor draining. And that's important when you're flying FA off, especially at faster speeds in tighter sort of terrain. That's important because of revectoring. I don't know if it's going to be that much of a deal with how slow this ship is telling me it's going to go with its 416 cruise speed and 561 boost speed, but you know, generally the faster you're going flight assist off, the less efficient your maneuvering thrusters and your main thrusters in the back are going to be able to revector you. So, you know, what if you're going at like 700 meters per second in a canyon, FA off, of course, and you boost to go along a straightaway, but then you see at the very end of the straightaway, the canyon turns to the left. Well, you know, you start yawing and doing your thing to point your nose in the direction or the vector that you want to change to, and you start firing your maneuvering thrusters, but it's not revectoring you fast enough. Well, you hit the boost button, because the boost key not only makes you go faster, but it also deploys maximum power to all of your maneuvering thrusters as well. So you'll notice you'll be able to swing that nose faster, and then, you know, your rear thrusters will kick in and just rocket you almost instantaneously if they're strong. And you have a fully engineered thruster assembly. It should rocket you in the vector that you want to change to almost instantaneously. So that's kind of why we want the power distributor. So the faster we're going, you know, we want to just be able to not worry about timing our chained boosts, right? You just want to keep hitting the boost over and over and over again, or at least have that capability, you know. Sorry, I might have misrepresented that there. We're not actually boosting every 5 seconds, right? We're using our boost key as we need it. But sometimes we will need to chain multiple boosts together, and we don't want to worry about our capacitor draining and having to wait a few seconds for it to come back. So anyway, that's why I have that distributor on there. So that's the pretty much all the important bits here. I don't want to start talking too much shop because I'm not much of a min-maxer. I just kind of throw stuff on there and see if it works. Really, I'm just really excited to fly this thing for the first time. I did fly it in off of my carrier. I did fly it into the station, but it had 6E thrusters, and that was an absolute nightmare. So now she's got 6A dirty drag drives, grade 5. So let's go ahead and see how it handles. Is anyone coming in through the mail slot? Who cares? Let's see if I can still do this. Oh. Yep. I haven't actually flown like this in quite some time, but it is kind of like riding a bicycle at this point. I've got at least a few thousand hours logged as an FA off pilot, and you know, even if I leave Elite Dangerous for long periods of time, usually only takes me about 15 minutes to, you know, kind of get that muscle memory back. We're going to go ahead and I want to take this inside these Coriolis trenches to see how the thrusters can kind of, you know, help us out by maneuvering these tight areas. So let's find a spot to go in. I think this looks good. So the Python Mark II has kind of a fat rear, so I think we're going to run into issues with the little tail section getting hung up on things. So let's just see how it handles itself before we make any assumptions. Like a glove. Now we're inside the Coriolis trenches. Oh, look at that. That's so cool. Look at the planet. Like, so the planet's not actually moving. It's easy to forget that, but I'm manually rotating the ship to kind of match the rotation of this Coriolis starport. That was a pretty early skill that I learned in my FA off training. And by the way, if you're watching this and you don't fly FA off and you would like to learn how to fly FA off, I can just check the video description. I'll actually link some really, really awesome training video tutorials that Moxen Wolf made, and those are the ones that I learned off of, and a lot of my colleagues in the FA off world learned off of. Really, really great tutorial series. You know, you start small and you start building upon the basic skills you learn, and that's kind of the same exact. Well, yeah, it is the same exact way that I learned because I used his guides. So, anyway, back to the Python Mark II. Let's see if we can do a sharp turn. So, I'm not... These thrusters are okay. I've flown ships in here before that couldn't handle this, and I am pleasantly surprised that the Python Mark II can. It's just every time I turn, yeah, see, its tail section is bumping into things. So if you want to take this down here, I guess you kind of got to treat it, you know, give it a little bit of berth, and consider how wide your rear section is, or else you're going to start hitting it on things as you try to take your turns. But as far as rotation matching, you know, maintaining that rotation match at the station and kind of changing my vector in these tight spots, the Python Mark II with 6A dirty drag drives does appear as if it can handle it. But yeah, it's not a super smooth experience, mostly because the tail section keeps hitting things. Let's do a turn here and go into this area. So one thing to note here, I am yawing left. Its unboosted yaw rate is a little bit slow for my liking, but I do understand a lot of ships in Elite Dangerous don't have the greatest yaw rate, at least in my experience. I might be wrong on that one. But I can tell you this much: it ain't no Sidewinder. It's not like flying a Sidewinder in here or an Eagle Mark II. Yep, that's its tail section bumping into things. Maybe it's just because this is the first time I've flown this ship, and I'm also actually kind of a rusty FA-off pilot. So I might just need to get some more muscle memory back, and I might need to kind of learn the Python Mark IIs. I might need to just kind of get that in my head, like just how wide the rear section is, so that next time maybe I can account for that, if it's possible. Anyway, so that was our trench flying. So let's see how... Let me just see how boosting into the Mailslot's gonna be like.
Approval granted. Plot
Oh,
route
there
for
it
approach
is.
to landing pad 35.
So let's see how, at faster speeds, how I can kind of, you know, come into the station a little bit faster. You might get to see me explode here. Yeah, I think I'm about to explode. Well, we can be sure now that its hull plating can't handle a collision at about 560 meters per second. So let's redeploy and try this again. I'm so happy to have you all here on this momentous occasion. This is my Python Mark II's first official rebuy within like 1 hour of owning the thing. All right, let's try that once more. And then after this, I'd like to go down to some canyons here.
Landing gear retracted.
All right, let's go back out into space, and then I'm going to submit another docking request, and we'll see how it handles. There we go. Request docking.
Docking request approved. Land on designated pad number 20. Clear of the station limits. Safe travel.
Of course, now that I like left the Mailslot and just did a 180, now I have a much, you know, nicer vector of approach now. But you know, maybe I engaged easy mode. Sorry, but let's see how we can do this. How I can do this. I think I missed the mark. Nope, I got it.
Reduce speed to 100.
Whoa.
Integrity compromised.
As you can see, I used to do this all the time. I'm a little bit rusty. Oh, there's a second rebuy.
Eject.
Well, at least we know the Python Mark II can handle going in and out. It's just the person sitting in the pilot seat can't handle it. I think now we're going to go ahead and head over to some canyons. So I'm going to undock from this station and head on over to my fleet carrier. We'll be taking the fleet carrier to a fairly distant system. So let me just get out of this place. Alright, so we've skipped ahead to Soontill. This is the system that I usually test ships out in canyons at in the Odyssey DLC. Let's try this area. And of course, the second I get down here, it's been at least over a year since I've last done flying like this in the canyons, so I'm probably going to wipe out within 5 seconds anyway. So let's go ahead and go down. Let me just... Uh-oh. I think I might need to do a boost, yeah. Get our descent under control. Okay, we have full control of the vehicle. So let's do some slow cruising to start. Just see how these thrusters handle themselves. I'm gonna do a turn here. Okay, that's not terrible. I mean, we are flying a medium ship. It's a little bit slow. Feels a little weak. But that's to be expected with such a massive, heavy ship. We need to remember we are not flying an Eagle Mark II, or a Viper, or a Sidewinder. I'm kind of comparing this to the Fer-de-Lance. The Fer-de-Lance is, if I have to do this in a medium ship, it's probably going to be my Fer-de-Lance that I've engineered for this type of flying. I don't fly it all the time. I'd rather have the speed and agility that comes standard with flying small ships, but you know, if you want to multi-cruise someone in and take them on a cruise, you know, that's kind of my ship of choice. That ship is very special because it can turn on a dime, and it's very, very good at this kind of flight in these canyons. But this feels, at least to me, a little bit sluggish without boosting. So far, I don't know if I would actually enjoy doing slow canyon flight like this with a Python Mark II. But, you know, I've only been doing this for about 30 seconds, so let's go somewhere else. Oh yeah, so that's going to be the other problem with this thing. It's got that really, really wide tail section with the wingspan in the back, and that needs to be accounted for. If you're getting really, really close to the walls, or if you're taking tight turns around some ice spikes down here, you need to make sure that your wing doesn't clip and like that. Kind of make you spin out of control. So just kind of a being aware of your ship's size. So let's pick up some speed now. I'm gonna need to be very careful to not clip these wings on anything. Oops, misjudged the boost. And here we go.
Eject.
And that was another rebuy. So let's, I'm going to do a quick cut and we'll head back down there. Okay, so we're back at another spot on the planet. And so we'll pick up where we left off there before that last explosion. I'd like to pick up a little bit of speed, see how it handles. We'll see if it can do it. So let's hit the boost button and see how this goes. So I fell silent there because I wanted to sort of time the boost, see how long between boosting we have to wait, and it looks like it's going to be about 4 seconds. Which is nice. Oh yeah, which is nice that we have such a short interval. Let's see how I can handle that. All right. Uh-oh. Well, that was nice, being able to cut that corner. It was a bit of a wide turn, though. It didn't feel as strong. So if you saw what I did there, I sort of flipped I rolled the ship to be sort of, perpendicular to the ground, and when I hit the boost key, I was firing. I was, first of all, I was yawing up a little bit so that way I can actually use my vertical thrusters to help me turn and revector. So I was able to pull that 90-degree bend. With the, of course, my vertical thrusters were going, my boost was going, the rear thrusters were firing. So I was giving it everything I could to sort of make that turn super duper quick. It had a bit of a wide, slow turn. This is a medium ship, so comparing it to kind of the small ships that I'm used to doing that with, and it just can't really compare. It's a heavy ship. It's large. What can I tell you? Okay, so after that last rebuy, I actually had many more rebuys, and I came to the conclusion that I actually can't do boosted flight and talk at the same time. It's just too much for me to focus on. So what we're going to do a few minutes of boosted canyon flight, see how it handles, and then I will add some of my commentary and some first impression opinions after we're done. So with that, buckle up, let's go.
Taking damage. Shields offline. Hull integrity critical. Eject. Eject.
All right, and there goes another rebuy. What you saw there was me totally forgetting how long this medium ship is, and I went to flip upwards to do a 180-degree turn and burn revector move, and I forgot how long it was, so I ended up slamming the tail section down on the canyon wall. Then it bounced me back up, and then in that direction I had already charged the boost, so the boost just rocketed me straight into the floor, and I went and it exploded. So anyway, I think I've seen enough to give some of my first impressions of the ship, from me as an FA off pilot, from an FA off pilot's point of view, as far as maneuverability and fun go. I have to give my actual verdict. I really like it. I think it's good. It passed the test. I was being a little bit harsh. I'm comparing this thing to the Fer-de-Lance. It might be a bit of an unfair comparison because the Fer-de-Lance has some pretty overpowered agility and maneuverability. So if you've ever flown one in any kind of situation that you're flying a Fer-de-Lance and FA off, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's a great PvP ship, it's a great mission running ship, but it also doubles as an awesome medium class FA off canyon running ship as well. So might be an unfair comparison. I'll just shrug it off. Sorry. Let's just put the Python Mark II on its own. Standalone, it's a great ship. The fact that it was able to do any kind of canyon flight FA off is pretty impressive to me. It it's one of its biggest benefits is, you know, I was kind of complaining about its vertical and lateral thrusters and maneuvering thrusters feeling a little bit sluggish, a little weak, but they are powerful enough because you did see the footage there. It was able to navigate those canyons there at Soontill 2 Alpha just fine, despite my lack of pilot skills. The other thing that the Python Mark II has going for it is it's got a pretty nice boost phase. I was counting 3 to 4 seconds between chain boosts, and the boost phasing itself, the phases of the boost itself, felt nice. I didn't actually catch the exact time you get maximum power to the rear main thrusters, but it felt not maybe comparable to the Viper Mark IV's super duper long main boost phase, but it did feel long enough. I mean, you saw the footage. I was able to do multiple 180 turn and burns. So for example, you know, I would flip the ship. I'd be moving in one vector. I'd flip the ship around to go in the opposite vector, 180 degrees, and hit the boost key. And if you paid attention to the speedometer, you know, I was doing like 500 something meters a second in one vector, and I'd flip around, do the turn and burn move, and it gave me enough power and enough time to those 2 rear thrusters to actually achieve maybe, what, 470 to 500 meters per second in the opposite vector. So I can pleasantly say it's not like the Great Mark II with its insanely short and kind of crummy main boost phase. The Python Mark II will get you out of a pickle, or it'll let you do your J turns, whatever you need. So yeah, I like its boost phasing. It felt good. So yeah, I like it. As for a daily driver, I think the Python Mark II for an FA-off only pilot, it's going to make a fantastic choice for combat, whatever mission running. I'm going to try to find a use for mine in my everyday daily activities because it's such a cool ship, and I do like the way it handles. It's not as good as the Fer-de-Lance again, but hey, I'm gonna try to make it work. So that's it for this video. My final grade is I don't know, an A, maybe a B plus. I don't know. I'm just throwing an arbitrary letter grade out there, honestly. I like it, though. I really, really do like it. So, thanks for watching. This is the first time I've ever done a video like this in Elite Dangerous. This was totally unscripted, so I was rambling a lot. But I've never done a video like this in Elite before where I'm talking, because I never felt, you know, like I needed to do anything of this nature in Elite. But I saw the Python Mark II come out on early access on the ARC store, what was it, yesterday, and I know I love to fly FA off, so I figured I'd give my 2 cents as an FA off pilot. So yeah, it's a topic that I can confidently discuss, feel that I can confidently discuss, at least on YouTube. So, you know, if you like this kind of stuff, just let me know and I might do more here and there. But until then, 07, I'll see you in the black, and fly dangerous.